In this presentation, I will share some key findings about advantages of subsurface irrigation and fertigation for sustainable water management in irrigated vineyards. All the results that are presented were part of the OFIVO operational group. Trials were conducted following the request of wine growers that were involved in OFIVO. So I will first talk about the results about subsurface irrigation, and then I will move on to the results related to fertigation strategies. So first about subsurface irrigation, we'll see how it can impact the subsoil wetting bulb. The aim of the study was to compare aerial drip irrigation in the vine row to subsurface drip irrigation at 40 centimeter depth. The area, it was a French Mediterranean vineyard on the Viognier grape variety. The soil type, it was a mix of sands, clay, and silts. So to monitor soil moisture, sensors, Teros 11 volumetric sensors were installed. They recorded soil relative humidity every hour. And they were installed, they were placed at different depths and at different horizontal positions from the vine row. This enabled to have an idea of the water distribution in the soil, but also of the drying dynamics and of the size of the wetting bulb. Okay, so to talk about the results, so here you can see that we have spikes for increase in soil moisture after each irrigation. So we can see that the irrigation water reached the monitored zone for each spikes. And if we take the example of the aerial drip irrigation, we can say that it depends on the lateral position and the depth. So on the first graph, you can see the zone under the row. And we can see that we have an increase at 20 and 40 depths in the soil, but it's weaker at 60 centimeter depths and almost negligible at 80 centimeter. And on the other graph, so when we are talking about different lateral position, we can see that only the increase are at 60 centimeter depth. So this data enable us to modelize the wetting bulb in the soil. Calculation of soil moisture gains was made 24 hours after each irrigation and based on 108 data points. Now to compare the soil wet bulb of aerial drip irrigation and subsurface drip irrigation. Yes, we can see that for aerial drip irrigation, the moisture gains are only under the vine row, so most at 40 centimeter, but also 20 centimeter and 60 centimeter depths. But the water supply is ineffective at 80 centimeter depths. And now regarding subsurface drip irrigation, we can see that we have an increase in moisture in all monitored areas of the soil, but except under the row. So results show both deep and lateral percolation that was in a more effective manner compared to aerial drip irrigation. So the conclusion on this first trial was that subsurface irrigation at 40 centimeter depth in the middle of the interrow generated larger wetting bulbs without modifying the wine water status compared to aerial drip irrigation. And it could be subsurface irrigation, a lever to promote plant cover in the interrow in a Mediterranean context, because it was observed during the trial that the water from the subsurface irrigation reached the soil surface through water capillary rise. So it could be further studied in other trials, but something interesting at least. So now I will move on to the fertigation strategy to show how it can improve fertilization efficiency. So the aim of this trial was to compare the effects of 3 water and mineral supply strategies on grape and wine quality. The trial was conducted in the southwest of France in the context of Côte de Gascogne PGI, so high yield context, on Colombard grape variety that were grown on sandy, silty clay soil with low water holding capacity. It was in the year 2020, so particularly hot year for the region. So 3 treatments were compared. So the first one was full fertigation strategies with 3 fertilizers applications through 3 irrigations, so only 3 irrigations, so between fruit set and veraison. The second treatment was the partial fertigation, so where we had 1 input on the soil and then 1 through irrigation between budburst and veraison. And the last treatment was the control one, so it was only 1 application to the soil at budburst. So that is what is commonly done in the region. So regarding the context of the 2020 year, the cumulative rainfall reached 330 millimeter between budburst and harvest, and the water deficit was moderate to strong during berry growth and persisted after veraison. Regarding the impact on water stress, so as expected, no severe water stress was observed with irrigation, but it was significantly different water status compared to the control, so what we were waiting for. And on the impact on yield, we observed an increase of 25% with the full and the partial fertigation strategies, mainly due to higher bunch weight. Some advantages with the full fertigation strategy that should be emphasized is that it was a strategy that showed the best yield to ripeness ratio. So as we can see on the graph where the blue curve is the one of the full fertigation strategy for the potential of alcohol content is really close to the one from the control. And while reducing fertilizer input of 30% less. Something that could be noticed also is that regarding the analysis of aromatic compounds, so the varietal thiol that are really specific to the Colombar and that are really expected in the context of the Côte de Gascogne PGI, similar concentration across the 3 treatments were observed. So that's a very positive point for producers. And so the conclusion for the fertigation part is that full fertigation strategy, efficiency in sustaining yield and grape quality under hot vintage conditions, while contributing to input reduction. So also very positive points, but it requires a lot of handling requirements that could be very important. And we have no possibility for anthropoblock modulation in case of heterogeneous plots with the full fertigation strategy. And so this was the results of my colleague that could enrich us today. So if you have further questions, I'll give you their contact. Thank you.